There are movements that make no sound. No clear moment announces the decline. No sudden sign appears to bring everything to a stop. Only this, over time, the body begins to change. One day, rising from a chair becomes slower. One morning, the steps are no longer as steady as before. A very small moment, when the hand can no longer hold its strength as it once did. All of it unfolds in silence. Not because of a lack of effort, not because health was ignored, but because deep inside, a process is taking place. Day after day, muscle does not disappear all at once. It fades, layer by layer, fiber by fiber, in a slow rhythm, too subtle for the eye to notice. And then, at some point, the body no longer responds as it once did. This is not only aging. This is a process with a name. A process that, if it is not recognized early, will continue in silence. Beneath the still surface of the skin, a cycle continues without pause. Muscle is not a fixed structure. It exists in a state of constant motion between two opposing processes, breakdown and rebuilding. Every movement throughout the day, no matter how small, leaves behind microscopic damage within the fibers. Tiny disruptions, invisible to the eye, yet enough to trigger a deeper response within. When the body enters a state of rest, especially during sleep, another mechanism begins. Biological signals are activated. Nutrients are directed. Each muscle fiber is repaired and reconstructed, thicker, stronger. But this process does not happen on its own. It requires raw materials, protein to build, minerals to activate, fats to transport. And the most critical moment is not during exercise. It is when a new day begins. Breakfast is not just a routine. It is the starting point for whether the body continues to maintain or gradually lose its own structure. Morning unfolds like a quiet interval between two biological cycles. After a long night, the body enters a state of relative depletion. Energy reserves have declined. Muscle fibers have just passed through a phase of silent restructuring. This should be the moment when building continues. But right at this point, a small deviation often appears. It is not the absence of food. It is eating in the wrong way. Familiar choices, fast, convenient, easy to prepare, carry with them a different consequence. Glucose enters the bloodstream too rapidly. Hormonal signals shift out of rhythm. Nutrient sources lack balance. And instead of supporting rebuilding, the body is pushed back into a state of breakdown. This process does not create an immediate sensation. No pain, no clear signal. Only this. Morning after morning passes, and muscle is not restored as it should be. And when repetition continues long enough, decline is no longer a possibility. It becomes a direction already set from the very first choices of a new day. Not every source of energy carries lasting value. There are forms created by removing nearly the entire original structure, leaving behind only what is easiest to digest. White bread is formed from refined flour. The bran is gone. The germ no longer present. The parts rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals do not remain in the final structure. Once inside the body, refined starch is rapidly broken down. Blood glucose rises within a short span. A stream of energy appears, fast but unstable. Insulin is triggered. Glucose is cleared from the bloodstream at a similar pace. And soon after, energy levels begin to fall. No sustained foundation. No stable maintenance. This cycle repeats again and again across days. The body is not lacking energy, but it lacks balance. Tissues do not receive sufficient micronutrients. Regulatory systems gradually lose efficiency. A single slice of white bread does not create a visible change. But when it becomes a habit, A pattern of constant fluctuation is established. No noise, no immediate awareness. Only, over time, the internal structure slowly loses its stability. Not every stimulating signal arrives at the right moment. There are responses, triggered before the system is ready. Coffee, when entering the body on an empty stomach, comes without a nutritional foundation. No buffer to slow absorption. Caffeine moves quickly into the bloodstream. The nervous system is activated. Heart rate rises slightly. Alertness appears early. At the same time, cortisol begins to increase. A state of vigilance is established from the start. Meanwhile, the stomach has not received signals from food. Acid continues to be released. With no material to process, the internal environment becomes more sensitive. There is no immediate signal, no major change in a single instance. But when repeated across many consecutive mornings, the system regulating energy begins to fluctuate. Alertness no longer remains stable. Dependence gradually forms, not from a single occurrence, but from repetition. A cup of coffee is not the issue. Timing determines how the body responds. No noise, no clarity at the beginning. Only, over time, a biological rhythm drifts away from its original balance. Not every source of protein retains its original value. There are forms that have passed through multiple layers of transformation. High heat, salt, preservatives. Processed meat is no longer an intact structure as it once was. Protein bonds have been altered. Alongside them, sodium, nitrites, and compounds formed during processing. Once inside the body, it still provides protein, but at the same time, introduces elements that are not required. Sodium affects fluid balance, placing pressure on regulatory systems. Preservative compounds pass through the liver, where they must be processed and transformed. This process does not create immediate change, no clear signal, in a single instance, but when repeated across many meals over extended time, the system begins to accumulate load. Recovery capacity is no longer optimal. The internal environment becomes less stable, not because of the protein itself, but because of the accompanying elements within a modified structure. A single portion does not create immediate difference, but when it becomes a habit, a continuous form of pressure is established. No noise, not easily recognized. Only over time, the biological structure gradually shifts away from balance. Not every combination creates balance. There are structures that appear reasonable on the surface, yet lack a foundational element. Oats are a slow-digesting carbohydrate source, rich in soluble fiber, providing an initial sense of stability. But when paired with skim milk, an essential component is removed. Natural fats are no longer present. The absorption rhythm becomes faster. Glucose is released. Blood sugar begins to rise. Insulin is activated to regulate. Without fat, to slow the process. Stability is not sustained for long. At first, the sensation is light, easy to digest, no immediate strain. But over time, hunger returns sooner. Energy begins to fluctuate, not because of a single component, but because of how the components interact. One meal does not create immediate change, but when repeated across many days, the body enters a metabolic rhythm lacking stability. No noise, not easily recognized. Only, over time, a structure that once seemed balanced reveals the absence within. Not every grain retains its original nature. There are structures that have been separated from their protective layers. From the germ, where most micronutrients reside, refined grains are created by removing the bran and the germ. What remains is the endosperm, rich in starch, yet poor in accompanying nutrients. Once inside the body, this starch is rapidly broken down. Glucose enters the bloodstream at a high rate. Blood sugar rises quickly. Insulin is activated to regulate, but that balance does not last. As glucose declines, energy falls with it. No fiber to slow the process. No fat to sustain a steady rhythm. Only a cycle of rise-fall, repeating many times throughout the day. No clear change in a single instance. No major signal from one meal, but when it becomes a habit, the body gradually adapts to continuous fluctuation. Energy regulation becomes less flexible. Hunger appears sooner. No noise. Not easily recognized. Only over time, energy becomes detached from its original structure, leading to a prolonged state of instability. And then there is a moment difficult to recognize. Not an event, not a clear pain, only a repetition, sustained long enough for what has been unfolding to begin taking shape. Mornings that look the same, familiar choices, foods that seem harmless, repeated day after day. No major deviation, only small misalignments, accumulating, and from that, a direction begins to form. It is not age that naturally weakens the body. It is the way the body is nourished. After each cycle of rest, each morning is a starting point, a small turning, repeated continuously. One path continues the same choices. The silent breakdown goes on. The other path changes very little, only an adjustment in what enters the body at the right time. No need for perfection, no need for extremes, only precision. And when that precision is repeated, the body begins to respond, not immediately, but inevitably. At some point, the difference is no longer felt. It is seen in structure. Muscle is preserved or gradually lost, and everything begins with a simple realization. It is not about eating more. It is about eating right at the right time. Not all growth begins with large movements. Some changes unfold very slowly, silent yet precise. Greek yogurt is a structure that has been concentrated, water reduced, excess elements removed. What remains is the protein-rich core, denser, more stably. In a small serving, the protein content is elevated. Casein, a slow-digesting protein, enters the body without sharp spikes. It sustains steady, prolonged release. No noise, no immediate clarity, but at the microscopic level, muscle fibers begin to receive material. Small disruptions from movement are filled layer by layer. Alongside this, a system of beneficial bacteria is present. A small ecosystem within the gut, where absorption occurs, where balance is maintained, no excess required, no complexity needed, only a choice repeated at the right time, after movement, or within quiet intervals, when the body shifts into rebuilding. And over time, from a simple source of nourishment, a foundation begins to form. No sudden breakthrough, no display, only structure, gradually preserved. There are few structures in nature as complete as an egg. A thin shell encloses all the material required for the beginning of a living body. Inside, the white contains albumin, a pure protein, absorbed quickly. The yolk, more dense, carrying fats, vitamins, and choline, components that participate in synthesis and regulation. No part is excessive. Each element holds a role within a complete system. Once inside the body, the egg does not create a surge. It does not overstimulate. It simply provides material in a direct and efficient way. Essential amino acids are delivered to muscle tissue. Microscopic disruptions from movement begin to be restructured. This process cannot be seen, cannot be felt immediately, yet it unfolds with precision and continuity. 1, 2 eggs do not create instant change, but when repeated across many cycles of day and night, a foundation begins to form, not complex, not elaborate, only an intact form of nourishment, introduced at the right time, allowing the body to continue building itself. Not every process of building begins with protein. There are deeper foundations, rooted in energy and stability. Avocado does not create an immediate surge. It does not accelerate sensation, but within is a form of monounsaturated fat, stable and sustained. Once inside the body, this source of fat does not cause sharp fluctuations. It does not abruptly shift metabolic rhythm. Instead, it provides prolonged energy, allowing the entire system to operate in balance. Vitamin A, along with antioxidant compounds, moves through muscle tissue that has undergone activity. Cellular level disruptions are reduced. Recovery proceeds more completely. It does not directly build muscle, but it creates the environment where building can continue. A single slice of avocado does not create immediate change, but when it becomes a part, repeated within the daily rhythm, it keeps the system from interruption. No noise, no display, only a steady flow of energy in silence, sustaining the structure that is being formed. Not every form of matter is suited for building. The body requires protein in clear forms, easily converted, with minimal excess. Lean meat from chicken and turkey emerges as a direct source of material, low in fat, rich in complete protein, containing all essential amino acids. Once inside the body, digestion begins to break apart long protein chains into smaller units. These units move through the bloodstream toward muscle tissue that has undergone activity. There, muscle protein synthesis is activated. Leucine, a key amino acid, acts as a signal, initiating the rebuilding of muscle fibers. There is no growth without raw material, and no recovery if supply is interrupted. Lean meat carries no unnecessary complexity, no excess elements to interfere, only a clean form of matter converted almost directly into new structure. A single portion does not create immediate change, but when maintained after each cycle of activity and rest repeated, muscle fibers gradually thicken. Density increases, not suddenly, not visible within a single day. Only over time, structure begins to change. In nature, a small seed can carry the entire blueprint of life, compressed within a structure that appears simple. Nuts and seeds are not the primary source of protein, but within them lies a balanced composition of healthy fats, plant protein, and micronutrients. Once inside the body, unsaturated fats begin to regulate, supporting cell membranes, keeping structure flexible and stable. Magnesium, zinc, and trace minerals move quietly through enzyme systems. They take part in countless reactions linked to protein synthesis and tissue recovery. There is no obvious acceleration, no immediate sensation of change, only small elements accumulating with each use. A handful of nuts does not alter structure in a single day, but when repeated across many nutritional cycles, the body holds not only raw material, but also the conditions to use that material more effectively. No display, no dominance, only small seeds in silence, contributing to the completion of a system being built layer by layer. Beneath every choice, a mechanism unfolds, tightly interconnected. No element operates alone. Each component holds a role within the same chain. Protein enters and becomes raw material. Amino acids separate, filling the gaps within muscle fibers. But material alone is not enough. Healthy fats appear as a system of transport. They open the pathway for essential vitamins to be absorbed. Vitamins trigger signals. Minerals activate enzymes. Magnesium, zinc, potassium, small elements, yet directing hundreds of internal reactions. All of it converges at a single point. Muscle protein synthesis. If one link is missing, the chain is disrupted. Protein is not fully utilized. Vitamins are not absorbed. Signals are not activated. And the body returns to a state of breakdown. But when every component is present, the right type, the right proportion, at the right time, a complete system is established. Not a sudden surge of growth, but a steady process, where muscle is not only restored, but reinforced through each repeated cycle of a new day. There are changes that do not begin in the gym. They begin in an ordinary morning. A body once weakened, steps, no longer steady, familiar movements, gradually becoming difficult. No clear injury, only strength declining over time. And then a small adjustment appears. Not more training, not complex intervention, only a shift in what enters the body. At the start of the day, breakfast is rearranged. Protein becomes more complete. Fats are retained. Minerals and vitamins are no longer overlooked. At first, no clear difference. But day by day, a new signal is established. Recovery becomes more consistent. Muscle fibers are maintained instead of continuing to fade. And then, at some point, movement becomes steadier. Strength returns, not suddenly, but unmistakably. Not a miracle, only a sequence of precise choices, repeated long enough. And from that, another direction begins to take form. And here, a question begins to emerge, very slowly, not directed outward, but turning inward to where each morning still repeats, almost the same. Those choices, how long have they been there? Those habits that seemed harmless, since when did they become the default? There is no immediate signal, no clear boundary to recognize. Only, somewhere, the body begins to respond differently. A step, slower by a beat. A movement, requiring more effort. A sense of decline, without a clear name. If that moment has ever appeared, hold on to it, not to create concern, but to begin to see if what has just unfolded reflects a part of reality. Leave a number. Number 1, when the change has been recognized. Number 2, when adjustment has already begun. No need for long explanation. Just a small signal, enough to confirm that this process is no longer being overlooked. And if continuing forward, what lies ahead is not only information, but a sequence of new choices capable of reshaping how the body functions. Slow, but precise. And then, everything does not converge. In a single moment, it separates. No noisy, no clarity at the beginning. Only two directions begin to form. One path, mornings, continue as before. Familiar choices remain unchanged. The process of breakdown continues. Slow, steady, uninterrupted. No immediate signal. Only, over time, structure gradually weakens. The other path, no dramatic breakthrough. No extreme change. Only a few small adjustments. The right foods, at the right time, repeated long enough. And from that, a different biological rhythm is established. Muscle is no longer neglected. Rebuilding is sustained. Recovery unfolds more steadily, day after day. At first, the two paths seem almost identical. But over time, one continues to lose. One begins to preserve and reinforce. There is no shortcut, only choices, repeated each morning. And from that repetition, a new structure is formed, or slowly disappears, in silence.